J prime, K prime. To find the line of reflection, you just match up corresponding points. So there are 5 points around this irregular pentagon, but I'm going to pick the 2 that are closest together. I know that that is intended on being corresponding to that. You could also have picked this one and this one. You could also have picked this one and this one. But I'm going to pick those 2. You go more than half from one side, more than half from the other side, line up your straight edge through the fish, and that is your line of reflection. For number 8, I went back to assignment number 18 in Google Classroom, and this is a video from that. So I'm going to play it a little quickly, but if you need to pause it, pause it. This is how you reflect a triangle over a line. Make the smiley face, then you make 2 arcs from the edges of the smiley face, and then you draw the line. However far C is to the line of reflection, you go past it, and you make C prime. Now you do that exact same process for A and B. Ready? I'm going to go B, make a smiley face. From each end of the smiley face, I make an arc out in space there. It'll cross each other. This now is the road from B through that intersection point that B prime is going to be on. It's that far from the mirror, so it's that far past the mirror, and there's your B prime. Now, if these are too quick, just pause the video and go back. Go back and rewind this as much as you want. I do it one more time from A now. Make a big smiley face. That spot and that spot is where they hit. I go out in outer space here. From each end of the smiley face, I draw a line from A through that intersection point. A is that far from the mirror, so it's that far past it. There is A prime. I then connect it with my ruler or straight edge, and I have now reflected ABC. Okay, the next one says find the center of rotation. This one's a little bit simpler, quite a bit simpler. You just pick 2 points that match up with each other. So if you want to do A and A prime, they seem close together. Just make sure it's an A and an A, or a B and a B, or a C and a C. But I'm going to pick the A and the A there. And I go more than half, and a line through it. I get 1, but to find the center of rotation, you need to do a second one. So now I'm going to pick another pair, and in this case, I guess I'll pick B and B. And when I go more than halfway, it's wherever the 2 lines intersect is your center of rotation. You only have to do it twice. If you did it a 3rd time, it should be that same spot, but you only have to do it twice to find center of rotation. Number 10 says, which sequence maps ABCD onto its primes, and then its primes to its double primes? So what got us from here to there, and then from there to there? So the first thing that happened is this a translation, or is it a reflection? It actually has to be a reflection, because look where D is, and look where D prime is. They're mirror images of each other. So the first thing that happened was it was a reflection over the x-axis. And then, once I was down here, this was then rotated about the origin, so it ended up over here. So it was a reflection followed by a rotation. Number 11, describe another sequence of transformations that maps math onto math, ultimately double prime. So you could do this a few different ways. There were people who I saw translate this first to get H mapped up. I can make that better, hold on. So you could put H on top of H. So you translate -1, 1, and then rotate about point H 180 degrees. That's how I would do it. I would translate it first, -1, 1, and then I have a point of rotation, center of rotation right there. Once I have that center of rotation of H, I'll then rotate it about H 180 degrees. and then it'll map onto each other. You could have rotated it first and then translated. You would have ended up here, and then you'd still just have to translate at the end, -1, 1. Number 12. What's the image of -4, 6? They made a little sketch, or you can use any piece of graph paper you want. Remember, I'm doing this first and this second. The first thing I'm doing is reflecting it over the y-axis. So if I'm at -4, 6, and then I want to reflect it over the y-axis, I'm then going to be at 4, 6. Then I take this new point, 4, 6, and I reflect it over the line x equals 2. X equals 2 is a line that cuts through the x-axis at 2. That's the line x equals 2. So now I'm going to take this point right here, and I have to go 2 spots to get there. Two spots to get there, and then 2 more spots after that, which lands me right here on the y-axis after reflecting over this. And that is ultimately the point 0, 6. 13 says, if t is reflected across the line y equals x, what's the new coordinate of t prime? It's just asking you for t, even though it's connected to s. 2 ways you could do it. One is understand that it's a diagonal line, and if your graph paper is clean enough, you can count diagonal boxes like that. The simpler way to do it, to reflect over y equals x, is just take the coordinates, which are 7, -4, and just swap them, -4, 7. Number 14. This is a review of angles, because we have to remember all the old stuff too. And I know it wants C and D, but I'm just going to start finding everything I can. Because if you jump right to C and D, you might not have enough information yet. So just start finding stuff that you know. For example, if this is 44, then so is that, because it's vertical. So this has to be 44. If this is 78, what's next to 78? It has to be supplementary on a line, so that has to be 102. This would be 78, because it's vertical with that 78. Now, I have this triangle over here. You just look at that. I have 78 and 30, which is 108, which makes this 72, because 180 minus 108 is 72. And triangles have to add up to 180. So now I have that. I now can move this over. This 72 has to make this C 108. So now I know that C is in fact 108. And now D is part of a quadrilateral. So this four-sided shape here adds up to 360. And I know all 3 other angles. 360 minus this, and minus this will give you D. If you add up the angles that I got in the quadrilateral, it's 44, 102, 108. That gives you 254. Take that away from 360 and you get 106 for D. Final one, we had to add this X there and there in class because it wasn't typed. And if you just look at where I asked you to find the X, if you can just visualize that triangle, then you have 1 angle, 2 angles, 3 angles. That's all you need. So 72 and 46 add up to 118. A triangle adds up to 180 because what we're really looking at is this triangle. So X is 62 degrees. Now I know this was a longer than normal video, but if you take the time, it's the end of the quarter, it's your last big grade, take the time to review this, do yourself a favor and do well tomorrow.